Welcome back to the Searchmetrics Digital Summit. My name is Malte, and now we will hear from AB Tasty's very own Elef, how to translate insights into actions and how to use data to drive experiments. Elef, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Malte. So yeah, welcome everybody. Welcome from AB Tasty. As you can see, you see my first slide. We will be talking about turning insights into actions using data to drive experimentation. We will be talking about experimentation, of course, but you will hear like a lot of, let's say, buzzwords like personalization, testing, and of course, data. So I want to give you like a quick overview about what AB Tasty is about, what we're actually offering and why we're allowed to speak about data and experimentation. And then we will go actually through the presentation. So a couple of words about me. So my name is Eleftherios Kousakis. Quick name is Elef, the nickname. And I'm the sales team leader in Germany. I'm based in Cologne, but actually we have two offices at AB Tasty in Germany. One is in Cologne, one in Berlin. So and I'm switching between the offices a lot of times. So whenever you want to meet me in person, either Cologne or Berlin works best. I joined the company almost a year ago. Started as an account executive, was really working close with everybody who is taking care of the operational matters as well. Meanwhile, I have the honor to lead the sales team, a lot of different roles. And yeah, that's actually everything you need to know about me right now. About AB Tasty, we were founded like 10 years ago, I think almost 11. Actually founded as a marketing agency. But our founders, together with the developer, very quickly found out that they could help their clients the most if they develop a tool that helps them easily to run A/B tests. So yeah, for like everything that happens on site on the website. Meanwhile, yes, 10 to 11 years later, we are pretty happy to have now more than 900 clients. We have 225 happy coworkers. I can testify that we're really happy, and a lot of tested visitors. And like I said, we have two offices in Germany, but we have 8 other offices. Our headquarters in Paris, and then we're also based in the US, in Spain, in UK, and as well in Singapore for the Asian market. So what we'll be talking about is today about experimentation. There's a really nice quote from one of the digital operations manager at Cartier, one of our clients, who said, AB Tasty is the perfect tool to make educated decisions about your website. The tool is easy to handle and understand, understandable, and the support is very responsive and helpful. Yes, that is correct. This is actually what AB Tasty is standing for. So we have this tool that helps you pretty easily to set up tests and personalization. So everything you have in mind in terms of experimentation, which you can do like client side, you can do it with AB Tasty. But since October last year, we are also able to run server-side tests. So whenever you are considering to have like new features that you want to test and everything needs to be set up server-side, we have this new product called Flagship that enables you as well to run those tests on a server-side level, but also like for digital apps. So this is where we're actually coming from. Today, we will be talking about data. So we think data is definitely capital. It leads us to very important decisions. And day by day, everybody in AB Tasty and everybody of our clients has the understanding that data is really essential to set up like roadmaps for experimentation and personalization and so on. Unfortunately, and there's an interesting quote, for most companies, their data is their single biggest asset. Many CEOs in the Fortune 500 don't fully appreciate this fact. And I must partly agree, especially here in Germany, but also for the other countries, that there are still a lot of companies out there, even like very big companies, that still don't work with their data as they should. And we're from AB Tasty actually trying to overcome this by actually educating what is the benefit to work with this data to set up good ideas and good roadmaps for experimentation. Practical steps to design and test, actually. So let's do like a quick deep dive how do I actually get my ideas to create tests, and how do I create kind of a roadmap? We have here like 5 steps you need to consider when creating a test or campaign. So either a test or a personalization campaign, doesn't matter. First of all, you need to understand your user behavior. So you need to do like user research, so focus on behavior and on the site, on the app performance, whatever. So you really need to find ways to understand and to define problems. When we are talking about the next step, define, is actually to map out customer journeys and identify the USP of each landing page. So there's a certain page and you actually spotted out any kind of problem, and this is something we need to define. We need to write it down, and we need to find ideas to overcome that. The next step is actually to build like hypotheses, so to leverage these insights, theorize solutions, and to find solutions for those kind of pain points. And then we're starting to implement and set up campaigns and test with clear goals and measures and metrics. Why is this so important? We are facing, or we're facing actually, a lot of clients that started to run A/B tests and personalization, and they didn't really focus on a certain goal, on a certain KPI. So they were looking for each and everything. So it was not only like transaction goals, it was also the bounce rate and the click rate here and the click rate there. So you really need to focus, and you need to know which problem you actually right now are attacking. And therefore you need actually to go to this, let's say the full cycle actually. And later on to analyze this data, and to repeat, because it's a never-ending process. So yes, you have a hypothesis, and then it turns out it's correct or it's wrong, and then you need to go on actually, because this hypothesis as well won't last forever. So it makes sense definitely, to redo the cycle on and on. We were just talking about goals and KPIs, and identify the goal of the test and the metrics that would be used to gauge its success. So it's recommended to measure multiple objects during the test. This is what we wrote down here. And you have always to consider to have one primary goal, and then to have like, a primary measuring metric and a secondary measuring metric. So depending on the page you have just consider to optimize, maybe first of all your goal is to increase the number of purchases, but then you have actually a second metric where you're measuring the size of the basket, and maybe it could be even interesting depending on the scenario that you also put like goals inside, like the decrease of the bounce rate. That really depends on what you're actually testing, but you need to be very clear which KPIs do you need and which will you add to the test. So which will be the data you want to focus on, so to don't lose the focus in the end. So by saying this, if we are, for example, working on the entry points, we would, for example, consider to have a look on to decrease the bounce rate. When it's about high traffic pages, we would actually be speaking about increase like the lead generation. So you have a page where it's like a lot of traffic. So use that page to gain as much data as possible. So it makes sense to use those for the lead generation. When we're talking about exit pages, of course, our goal is here to increase transactions. So people are about to exit this page, and you want them to exit this page, like let's say successfully, by increasing your transactions, or like we just said, for example, increase the average basket size if this is a problem. I will show you just in a couple of minutes a good example for it when it comes to the basket size. And how this changes with personas is really interesting then to have a look on the increasing or decreasing click-through rate. So this is something you need to have a look on. Besides that, please always keep in mind that your users will actually see your content on a lot of different devices. So it's very important that you adapt your personalization concepts on each device, and that it makes sense to the user, because nowadays, when there's a site that you're interested in, when it's, for example, an e-commerce shop, you're checking it on the desktop side, but as well on your mobile device. So up to the next slide. Yeah, we were talking already about to identify pain points in the customer journey. And what is interesting here is that 56% of the consumers expect to find what they're looking for in 3 clicks or less. And yes, actually, we from AB Tasty need to confirm that. So it's very interesting when we have like new clients coming up and they're not sure what to test. This is actually some of the first scenarios that we really try to identify if the content that is meant to be seen by the user, if it's really quickly accessible. But on the other hand, it's still today that 45% of consumers actually do find what they are looking for in less than 3 clicks. So there's still a big gap. A lot of websites that have currently the issue that users don't find by 3 clicks the content they are looking for. And this is definitely something to work on. So we were talking about personalization as well. So we just were talking about experimentation, but personalization is also like a very important key here. I want to show you something. How do we understand personalization? First of all, sorry, because we have here a little bug in the slide, but I will tell you what is on here. So it's essential for personalization to target the right audience. So you're modifying the content of your website, and perhaps you don't want to show it like to the full audience, but to a certain audience. And how can you segment? How can you divide actually the audience in different tiers by actually transactional target criteria, contextual, and behavioral. So when we're talking about transactional targeting criteria, it's about like users that did already previous purchases that purchase in a certain frequency, like for example, once per month or 2 times per month, abandoned cart users or shoppers that have used a specific payment method. So maybe because we analyze that users that pay, for example, with PayPal we need to have like everything adapted to them and not for like credit card users. And then there's like the other targeting criteria like weather, which is more important than most of the people think, especially, for example, for fashion. So when you want to choose like different banners on your website, depending on the weather, makes sense. So we have, for example, a client from the outdoor fashion industry, and it makes definitely sense. So when I look out of the window and it's raining, that I'm in a different mood than the sun is shining. So when the sun is shining, I maybe consider to go out and need maybe some outdoor equipment. So it makes sense to maybe target users with a certain weather, and of course with the geolocation as well. So especially shops, online shops that have like local branches as well, and you have like a certain campaign running in your local store, it makes sense that you have geolocation targeting, but as well maybe you spot some differences between certain areas, so it makes definitely sense. Device, of course. So what I was just saying, that you always have to consider that your users are experiencing your content on different devices, and therefore it makes sense that depending on the device, the content is definitely a little bit different. Sorry, just a sip of my water. And when we're here in the last column, it's for example everything that has to do with the behavior of the user. So is it a user who visiting the page multiple times on the same day? Then it makes sense maybe to push him a little bit more like to the exit pages, so that he is actually considering quickly a decision, or he has a certain pages visited, minimum pages amount. So these are like the criteria we are working with pretty frequently, day by day. Okay, let's go on to some test ideas I brought with you. So I have here, for example, this is a really nice example, because we were talking about to increase the average order value, for example, the basket value. And here we had the original, which was showing whenever you put something in your basket, there was like this pop up, and with a call to action, proceed to checkout. Which was interesting because, it led a lot of users to, proceed to checkout, but they actually checked out without actually having another look on other products maybe. So what we did is that we tested another wording that was view shopping bag, and we definitely found out that this increased the clicks, but also the revenue, because the users were not considering right away to check out what they have in their carts, but they were also looking on other products, and so the average order value was increasing. Sorry. Another good example is here to personalize entire customer journey from the homepage. It's a critical topic right now. It's the travel industry, which is in this COVID-19 phase hit right hard. But one day when they will start again actually to make revenue, they definitely need to adapt and personalize the experience for the users to make it even more easier and to find more quicker really good offers. What we did with Center Parcs here is that we identified users that are interested in Christmas bookings by actually different target criteria. So first of all, users that were searching for dates around the Christmas holidays, or were visiting Christmas and New Year's landing pages, or actually users that came like from paid acquisition, which were clicking on campaigns that were targeted for users that are looking for December or end of year holidays. And second of all, from CRM. So we could also like leverage the data from our own CRM, or from the CRM from Center Parcs, from users that were already booked Christmas vacation from Center Parcs. So that helped us actually to have the data to who we show this personalized content. What we did in the end was actually to highlight those Christmas holidays here in the menu tab, but also when they were like searching, we modified the search results here. That makes real sense here. The last example I want to show you, where we were using data, and from this data we're identifying new ideas for personalization, was Calvin Klein. Because it's not always about to increase directly the conversions and the purchases. Sometimes it's also to increase the user satisfaction by giving them the experience that they find even quicker what they're searching for. What we did here is that at the burger menu, it was actually not displayed before that you can type in there that there's also the search bar, so that you can search for products in the shop. So we added this icon as well, and people were aware now, okay, there's the spot I need to click on the mobile page to find the search bar and to find actually more products that I'm looking for. And that increased really tremendously the clicks on the search bar, and 90% access to search result pages. So with this innovation actually on the mobile website of Calvin Klein, we were able to get more users to the, to get more users to the content they were looking for. So, these were actually the examples I brought with me. 1 second. This happens always on television, right? Okay, the example. So also I want to say that the survival depends on speed. So when we're talking about speed, it's not about only like performance, but also how quickly you're adapting to this like online industry, where everybody starts to personalize the experience and to test the experience. Because what we always do when we are facing new prospects, for example, and we have meetings and showing them A/B testing, of course, but also trying to educate them for testing and personalization, is that we show examples, for example, of Netflix and all the big ones, Amazon, etc. And nobody wants to compare with them, of course. but you really need to realize that all your users that are on your website, they do consume the internet and everything in this mobile area or digital area, also with those brands like Amazon, Netflix, and Co. So it's kind of a benchmark. So I would always consider to have a look at what they are doing, and we're trying actually to adapt those ideas as well for our clients. So one last quote, unlocking the value of data and analytics requires accelerating the analytics lifecycle from data acquisition to delivery insights to an end user who can take action. So this is actually, really justifying what I just said, is that we really need to accelerate things and to speed up the performance in terms of experimentation. There's one last thing I want to mention, because this is also soon available, or very soon available for all A/B Tasty users. Is like the next level of AI personalization. So we were talking about different targeting criteria. Right now, I think it's the right time to do that with the help of AI. So we are able, and it's very important for clients to target automatically users by engagement, also by interest. So by interest, we are talking about to automatically leverage natural language processing to understand browsing interests and create audiences around set interests. So by saying this, we mean, for example, that users that are on your website and they're searching for different interests, that we can segmentify them automatically to a certain interest group. And we have actually the same with engagement. So whenever there's a different criteria, and whenever we find out, or the tool is finding out by using AI, that there's a certain engagement for pages, products, etc., because we are really interacting more with those kind of pages or products. There's like another targeting criteria that sums up actually different targeting criteria to one, so that we have an algorithm that is identifying the engagement in different levels, like high engage or low engage. And that is actually the future. It's good to have a platform where you can choose like manually different interest criteria or engagement criteria, but leverage AI here makes definitely sense also for the future, not only for A/B Tasty, I think for all vendors out there. And yes, Malte, I'm already coming to an end. So to my questions page.
Yeah, thanks for this really insightful presentation. I think it's awesome that you included these concrete examples like the mobile search bar on Calvin Klein. Like personally, I always take away the most from these like concrete real life examples. And I also really like that you highlighted that you can use transactional, contextual, or behavioral approaches to select audiences for personalization. Personally, I have to say, especially when it comes to using CRM data, so many companies are doing such a bad job. Like, for example, there's, I'm not going to name the website, but I very regular book flights from Berlin to another city and back to Berlin. So they could know that I live in Berlin. But every single time when I book a flight from, for example, New York to Berlin, they send me an email to book a hotel in Berlin, book a car in Berlin. And it would be so easy to realize that I don't need this. It's crazy. Coming to the questions. You already mentioned COVID-19, but I think this deserves a bit of a follow-up, because most marketers I talk to nowadays, it's their number one topic, and it's going to be the number one topic for the next 1 or 2 months at least. What is a typical personalization scenario in the context of COVID-19? Do you have an example for us there?
Well, it's actually hard to say, because it really depends on the client and especially on the industry. So let's take, for example, travel, which is having like a very bad period of time, but we still work with travel clients, for example. What we do is that at least we identifying new users on the page, because what we actually see, and that no matter of which industry, is that the traffic maybe decreased on a lot of websites, but it's more qualified right now. So with having this in mind, we're identifying, for example, on travel websites, new users to get like their email addresses, so that whenever the travel period will start again, that we can leverage this data and be able to target as well, especially those people that were interested even like in the bad period of time. And this is a good example. Besides that, we have a lot of customers that have also like local branches. So then we have we use simple templates to show them where's like the local branches are closed, but they can, for example, sign up for a list to get information very soon when the shops will be open again, because depending on the area in Germany where you live, it's pretty different right now with the restrictions, because we have not the one restrictions here in Germany overall. So this is like a typical scenario. And when we're talking about experimentation, yes, we still run a lot of tests, but you really need to consider, because it's a special period of time right now, that you maybe redo this test after the COVID-19 period, because then the results might be a bit different. So that does not mean that you shouldn't test right now, but my neighbor is starting with a drill, perfect timing. You need to consider that you maybe do it after this period. So whenever there's like a special period, if it's not Corona, but maybe it's winter, summer, etc., you need to have in mind that the personalization and experimentation need to be redone at a certain time.
Yeah, I especially like the advice to go for like micro conversions, like capturing their email address, these kinds of things. It's probably the best you can do if you're right now in travel, or also when it comes to betting on sports event. And I also think it's interesting how different travel companies react. Like we also have a lot of clients in the travel space, and some of them have shut down their marketing operations completely. Yeah. And others were like, okay, let's do the website relaunch we have been planning for a while. And really heavily started to invest in like speeding up the website relaunch, because even if right now they mess it up a little bit, they're not going to lose so much revenue. So it's a good time for them to just plow ahead.
Yeah, and it really depends like on the company, not only on the industry, because there's, for example, it's not our client, but there's a company I'm really frequently in touch with, because we were in the past talking about A/B testing and could have made sense for the future, but now with this period, it's a little bit more special. But what they do is basically their business model is to offer travels. But now in this period, they actually changed their business model, and they're now offering experiences you can do at home, like, for example, some e-learning lessons or something like that. And that's really interesting. So it really depends on the company. If there are use cases you can test right now, or to create personalization. So some are a little bit more creative, some are less. That is actually what I see.
Yeah. Completely different question. In order to perform a test, to test out a personalization, I of course need to start with an hypothesis. And most companies I talk to, they either have 0 or they have 10,000 ideas. But what actually is a good process to come up with like the first maybe 1, 10, 5 hypotheses that I should test? Do you have any advice there?
It's definitely important to make a clear plan. So we are facing the same situation. We're meeting new prospects and new clients, and they start with us, and either they have like thousands of ideas, which are driven by so many departments, and everybody has a different interest to test this and that. But what we also see is that a lot of clients want to start with the most complex cases at first. So to completely, for example, rearrange the home page or a certain landing page, which makes no sense in the beginning. So how do we create hypotheses? Is first of all to gain actually data. So to find some problem spots. We are mostly starting with a lot of clients with campaigns where we are only measuring certain call to actions or like click-through rates. And then with having this data, we are then starting to think about hypotheses. And this is very often like quick first tests are color tests, wording tests especially, and spacing tests. Because we are facing, especially in Germany, I don't know why, but we are facing a lot of websites that are full of information, because me as a e-commerce shop. I want to provide all information, data, and all at once. But that actually is really annoying and bothering, and it's frustrating the user. So the first hypotheses are mostly, hey, let's get your screen a little bit clearer. And this is how we mostly start. But it really depends on the data we collected before.
Makes total sense. Just what I've seen sometimes is that when companies start with just doing these very small tests, they optimize for a local maximum, when maybe rearranging the homepage could be the big thing. Like if you see that nothing is working, maybe the big experiment is the thing to go for. But it really depends on the case and the data you have, of course.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, final question. Of course, I will now probably want to run a lot of tests, right? I have all these great hypotheses. I want to test them all. Can I just run all my tests at the same time, or should I like run one by one? What's your advice there? Is there a maximum of experiments, both in parallel, but also allowed, like, let's say within a year? Is there any kind of threshold I shouldn't go above?
Technically speaking, the limit is very high. So it's not just with A/B testing, but also with other vendors that you can set up a certain amount of campaigns, and it will, for example, not really, if you do it good, you will not have any problems with performance. From a strategic standpoint, it really depends. So when we start with a client, it makes sense to not run too much tests, to have like some sort of focus. But later on, when you understand actually more and more your user data, your user behavior, it makes sense to really set up really different journeys. And there's like no number I could tell you right now that this is, for example, the limit. But we're speaking with a lot of companies and we have some companies that have like maybe 20, 30 scenarios running. But those are like scenarios and campaigns that don't really mix up, because you have also like the possibility to exclude users from a certain test because they are now in this journey A, and another user is in a completely different journey, and we have another like personalization idea for him. But the very important and essential thing you need to have a look on is here to really have a roadmap and to be able to prioritize what you actually want to do and why you are doing it, and not just because there's a bunch of people in your company in different departments who want to test this and that and this and that and this, which happens a lot. So I don't want to actually say some names, but there are like really brands that are known to a lot of people, and there's, for example, the marketing manager, and then there's the owner of the company who is also near India, who wants to test this and that, and then there's the director, and then there's an intern, and sometimes our job is really to moderate all those different stakeholders in the company.
Yeah, that's always one of the most difficult situations as a technology vendor or service provider, if you basically need to manage the different opinions that the clients have, because they don't have like this one unified request. I've been in that situation also many times. It's always a challenge.
Definitely.
Go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
I just wanted to say sometimes it's even the other way around, that we have too many ideas for them. For example, we worked with companies and the logo was containing, or the whole like corporate design was containing 2 colors, and we were not allowed to go beyond those 2 colors. So we always had to work with them, although we proved that, for example, blue was working better. And sometimes this is the challenge we have here.
Yeah, that's a very limited color palette, just to makes it hard to highlight anything really.
Definitely.
Yeah, those were all the questions for now. If there are additional questions, we can see if we can do some kind of follow-up to answer them all. I would say thank you for this presentation. I took some notes and will share them internally, because I think there were some really great insights here. And yeah, to the audience, thanks for listening, and see you in the next presentation of the Digital Summit.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.